This is my review of Creedence Clearwater Revival's self-titled debut album. It was released in 1968, produced by John Fogerty. So this would have been the first CCR album I got, as far as like the studio albums go. I did have this Greatest Hits Chronicle before that, and I'd had that for a long time before I decided to get any of the studio albums, and I always liked it. It was really, listened to it quite a bit, but I just kind of could never find any of their albums in the store, so that meant I had to buy them, order them online. So I think I would have got this around 2009 probably. I couldn't really decide where to like start buying their albums based off of just the greatest hits, so I kind of was like, well, I'll just get the first one and go from there. And that probably was a mistake. This first album kind of made me think for a while that maybe I was just more into their songs than like their albums as a whole. And that's kind of, my opinion on that's changed as I got the rest of their albums. So I don't think this is like a bad first album by any means or anything like that. It's just not quite to like the heights that the band would get to later. Their sound for the most part I think is kind of established here completely. Like it doesn't really change a whole lot as they go on. They do some different things here and there, I guess, on some of the later albums. But for the most part, this is kind of what they're going to sound like. This kind of tells 1968 though here, because they do some kind of weirder, not really like trippy things, but some things that, you know, bands around this era were doing at that time. But yeah, so the lineup for this first album and pretty much the whole band's career, except for a little bit later on. You have John Fogerty lead guitar, Tom Fogerty rhythm guitar, Stu Cook bass, and Doug Clifford on drums. None of them are like, I don't know, like the greatest at their instrument, but they all play really well together, I think, and I like the way all of them play for this album, pretty much all the albums. Going into the songs, like Fogerty is kind of the main songwriter for this band. There's some co-credits with his brother on here and some covers. I don't think he was quite there yet as a songwriter on this album, and I think that's kind of its main flaw. So the first track, I Put a Spell on You, is a cover. It's one that I was familiar with from the Greatest Hits album I had, and it was never my favorite on there. I kind of like it here better because I think it works pretty well as an opener. I like Fogerty's vocal on it, and I think it's got some cool guitar stuff on it. He's got a really great guitar tone on this whole album, and here it really shines and kind of gives the song this just a little bit like a creepy edge and sound to it. Yeah, it's a good opener. I don't think it's ever going to be one of my favorite songs of theirs, but it's a strong opener here. Second track, The Working Man. Another song, or a song by Fogerty. This song kind of took me a long time to really get into, but now I think it's got some cool guitar stuff in it. I like the lyrics, kind of relate to them, I guess. With you know, working, it's got like a line about "Don't take me on Friday because that's when I get paid." It's like, yeah, that's relatable. The third track, Susie Q, the cover. It's like 8 minutes. I think this is kind of the most well-known track off this album, and it's probably my favorite on here. I was already familiar with it from the Greatest Hits album. Not a whole lot to say about it because everyone's probably familiar with it to an extent if you're interested in these guys. So it's a great cover, and even though it's 8 minutes, I don't really get tired of any of it. Fourth track, 99 1/2. It's an okay cover. Like the way the band plays on it, there's some cool stuff, but it's not really like that memorable, which is kind of the problem with most of this album overall, is it's just a little bit kind of forgettable compared to their later stuff. Fifth track, Get Down Woman, Fogerty track that's just pretty forgettable. The sixth track, Porterville. I've heard that, I can't remember where I read this, but Fogerty considers this as like the first, I think, good song he wrote, or the first serious song he wrote, or something like that. I think this was the single for the album, and I like it quite a bit. Probably my favorite of his originals on here. It's pretty catchy. It's got some cool stuff in it. Seventh track, Gloomy, sung by John and Tom Fogerty, and it's not really or that memorable, but it's got some cool, got kind of a cool sound to it, a cool atmosphere. Some of the guitar stuff sounds pretty cool. It's got some like backwards guitar at the end that I liked. And then the eighth and final track, Walk on Water. Cool closing track. It's got I don't know, it's kind of a darker sounding song. It goes out on this kind of like extended instrumental part that's pretty cool. Not like extremely memorable again, but it's, I don't know, it's more memorable than some of the other stuff on here, and just the atmosphere of it works well for the closing track. There's some bonus tracks on the CD I have. Call It Pretending, which was, I think, the B-side of the Porterville single. I like this one. I think it's pretty catchy. It's got kind of the basses a little bit up front in the mix on it, which is different for them, and it's got a cool bass part. Then Before You Accuse Me, a cover that's fine, but I find it a little boring. And then two live tracks, 99 and a half and Susie Q, which are they're good. So I guess the bonus tracks kind of make this a little bit better. If it was just the album by itself, it'd be really short. It's definitely not the best place to start with this band. I think it's really one of their weaker albums. And not that it's bad or anything. I mean, it sounds great. They sound really good here. It's just that the songs aren't as good as they were going to get later on. So overall, not one of their stronger albums, but at the same time, not really a bad debut album. Just probably not the best place to start with this band.